Hello and welcome to Jane Austen July. This is one of my favorite parts of the year each year. This in October is just so wonderful to have such a large amount of the classic lovers of the community come together and to read books. I will leave all the co-hosts in the description below and you should definitely check out their videos. So the first prompt is to read one of Jane Austen's main 6 novels, and last year I completed my first time reading all 6 of her books with Sense and Sensibility. I don't actually know if I'm going to reread one of her books this year. I think Northanger Abbey is a group read and it's a favorite of mine, and it would be my 3rd time reading it. I might reread Sensibility because I read it over a long period last year. I actually haven't decided what I'm going to read for this or if there will be a main 6 novel, but I really recommend any of her books. Like Persuasion is wonderful. So many of these books are really great. I think Mansfield Park is underrated. Northanger Abbey is underrated. Emma is my favorite of her books of all time. Like, I can never choose my favorite because I really like all of the books by her. And the next prompt is to read a book by her that is not one of the main 6. So I bought this collection of her other books from Northanger Abbey, Lady Susan, the Watsons, and Sanditon. I thought I had some of her juvenilia in it as well, but it doesn't. I really love Northanger Abbey and I own another copy, but I actually might really read the Watsons this year. I'm really intrigued about reading some of her more full-length novels. But there's another prompt that is to read a bunch of her juvenilia, and I think that I will read some of that online and really enjoy it as well. Being able to expand on my Jane Austen love this year, I think is going to be something that I really enjoy doing. The third prompt is to read a book that is about her time or about her herself, and I've been working through Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley, and I think that I'm going to leave it into the beginning of July and count it for that prompt. I'm about like 60 to 70% through right now, and I really enjoy going to the different parts and how Lucy Worsley takes you in and has discussions about home life and what it means to have a home and all of the nuances of being a woman in that era. One of the books I'd recommend for this, if you're looking for a lesser mind book for this, I think is A Secret Sisterhood. It looks at the governess of her brother's children, Anne Sharp, and the ways in which they discussed writing and like spurred each other on, and it looks at several other women as well and their relationships throughout like writing careers. I found it a really fascinating work of nonfiction, so if you're looking for something that touches on Jane Austen but other women as well, I really recommend this one. The next prompt has to do with retellings, and this is where it's gonna get very large because I've actually read a lot of her books again. I kind of want to dive into some retellings. I haven't read very many at all. I think I might have only read The Heiress, which I did not particularly like, and a few modern retellings that were very loose. So yeah, I want to read The Other Bennet Sister. This is a take on Mary Bennet. I've been wanting to read it for a long time. I also might read Longbourn. I have taken it to a library too many times to count. It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice from the serpent's point of view. I also have 2 that are kind of set in her time. The Secret Diaries of Charles Ignatius Sancho. I've heard just marvelous things about this book, as well as The Secrets of Franny Linton. And this is about a young black servant who was a former slave who is being accused of murdering her mistress. Both of these are about young black people living in, Georgian/Regency England and the experiences of being in a black body and during the time of slavery and stuff. And I think that that's a point of view that is missing from Jane Austen's point of views, and she touches very slightly on slavery, almost in blink you missed it parts of her books. And I think that this is a really important aspect of the Regency and of the Georgian era that we just don't talk about. And I'm super excited to get to the murder of Mr. Wickham. I wanted to read this last year, but I hadn't finished Sensibility yet, so I didn't want to have any spoilers because I believe it has spoilers for all 6 novels, because I think that it's looking at the protagonists of those books and their children and murder. So I'm kind of hoping that I can get to the second one as well, but I think the holds will be too long, and that is The Late Mrs. Wickham. So that will be an interesting book. So I don't know how many there's going to be, but I'm super excited. For some contemporary books that I am thinking about reading, I have much about Nada. Apparently this is a retelling of Persuasion. I would think that it would be a retelling of Much Ado About Nothing, which is what I thought, but we'll see if maybe it's both of them. I don't know. I've been wanting to read Aisha at Last for a long time, but my library has no audiobook of it. It only has the physical book, so I feel like that puts it slightly lower on my TBR. But I really love this because it's looking at Muslim characters set in Toronto, which is right around the corner of me, and I think that it's such an important aspect of representation and one that I really feel close to as someone who grew up surrounded by a lot of Pakistani Muslim Canadians who I love so much. So I'm really excited to have that part of my culture celebrated, and yeah, so I'm super excited. I'm really hoping I'm gonna love it. And then another one that I might get to it is Where the Rhythm Takes You, and it's a retelling of Persuasion. And As I said, I have a soft spot for Persuasion. I'm really hoping they're going to keep the character of Anne more central to her, because I think that they adapt her wrongly often because they want a spunky heroine, and I love the quietness of Anne so much. The next prompt is to read a book that is a contemporary of Jane Austen, and I have The School of Scandal. I listened to the Noble Blood episode about Jordana Cavendish, Lady of Devonshire, and she is one of the most scandalous women of this era. And this play is written about her, and it has made me so interested to read it. And like shortly after that, I was just going through like a local thrift store and I saw it and I was like, man, this is not a book I'd ever heard about before. So I love plays. I read Lover's Vows a few years ago, and that was not only the greatest success from Jane Austen July, it's like one of my favorite books now. I think it's such a fabulous book and made me obsessed with like reading the 1790s. So yeah, I'm super excited for this and hopefully I will love it. And I love looking at scandalous women in the past and the way that they're represented. So yeah, if you want to know more about Georgiana Cavendish, I will leave that episode before, because like Noble Blood, such a wonderful podcast. And then the last two prompts are about screen adaptations. I'm weird about watching adaptations of books that I've read. I don't always enjoy it. I love watching adaptations in general, especially about books I have not read. Because then I find that they have like a deeper, richer thing, but I'm not mad. I don't tend to watch a lot of adaptations of things that I love. But I did start the Sensibility last year and the miniseries from 2008, and I didn't finish it, but I would like to finish it. I think I was in the second episode. I'll probably restart from the beginning. But yeah, I liked that. I might watch the Persuasion from the 1990s. I might watch the Emma from the 1990s, because I watched the one with the brunette that was the TV film, but I haven't watched the Gwyneth Paltrow one. So I don't know, maybe I will explore around. I've had the worst luck. I did not like the Persuasion 2022. I did not like the Emma 2020, which I know is like scandalous, but Emma is my darling, and she is stuck up, but she's not that snotty. Like, I really didn't like that. And as someone who self-identifies as Emma, I need her to be brunette. I'm so excited for Jane Austen July, and I hope that if you're participating, you'll let me know what you're reading, let me know what you're excited to read. And sometimes I read tons of books, sometimes I just like watch everyone's videos and I read one book, but I would love to know what you're doing, if it is the smallest or the most, you know, wide TBR across the board. And I will see you next time. Bye. Georgina Cavendish, about Georgina, about Georgina. Okay, that needs to be cut.